Nebraska with some big coaching moves or a big coaching move and big time recruits and transfer portal guys coming in. Justin, I got you this shirt. I hope that you like it. Um,
Let's go, baby. That's like 5-time off-season champions, if not more.
I've seen this shirt I've seen that shirt like 4 or 5 years in a row, and so I saw it and I was like, I gotta put it in there real fast.
It's been our rally cry for the last few years. We go into every off-season with excited. I do the best numbers on the channel in the off-season, so fun time.
That's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously the big additions are Glenn Thomas, the former assistant over with the Steelers, is now going to be the quarterback coach for Nebraska, and Dylan Raiola going to be coming in, and just a huge piece to that offense. 5-star, was formerly the number 1 recruit in the country. He slipped a little bit, but I mean, this was still a guy who was awesome at Elite 11 and has put up really cool, good stats wherever he's been. In high school, he's been like 2 or 3 different locations, and just done really well wherever he's been. So, Justin, are there some more in-depth moves or anything you want to mention?
Yeah, and first off, not sure why Raiola slipped at all. I mean, he played at step up in talent in Buford, Georgia, and had 33 touchdowns to 1 interception. So, But anyways, these recruiting services, you never know. But yeah, big time transfer class, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of immediate impact. The thing about Nebraska's numbers right now is we're way over. 85 is the limit. We're at about probably 105, 110, if not more. And so the way that they were going to have to navigate this class was going to be go get guys that have to come in and be instant impact in the transfer portal. And so more recently, they've been really, hammered down on that. Not only that, they've landed the main targets that they wanted to get. So coming off of last season, you're looking at, the offense as it was, and it was going to be hard to recruit skill position players to this team. Looking at that offense, it's not really inviting for guys who want to go to the league to come and play in this offense with the quarterback room that we had there. So they went out and first got a guy like, first on Dante Dowdle from Oregon, was a true freshman there, was a top 10 back in the 2023 class, average over 5 yards per carry there in a very small sample size. So going back to his high school film though, and watching it, very physical at the point of attack. He's a big guy who can get in there and run the Satterfield style of play where he likes to get big, he likes to get physical and establish that run game and open up the deep pass, which is where Raiola comes in. And then also the receivers to open that up. What Nebraska really lacked last year was the deep ball, and Satterfield does like to use the deep ball in his offenses. And it was the quarterback ability to get that out there. Harburg didn't really have it. One of his biggest knocks his entire career has been his deep ball accuracy. Struggled there. So, and just didn't have the weapons. We're down to a lot of true freshman receivers. Malachi Coleman was a true freshman, was going to be our X until Jamal Banks. So what Isaiah Nair brings, he was at Wyoming and then of course was at Texas most recently, but Isaiah Nair had his best seasons at Wyoming, and he's just a playmaker. He's a guy who, he's a big body guy who can go up and get 50-50 balls. He's got good ball skills, but he's also very, very fast, 4.4 40, stretch the field, a lot of deep, touchdowns on his film. And what they did at Wyoming, like I said, they made it a point, and his coach mentioned this, to just get the ball in his hands as much as possible and let him cook. And so Isaiah Nair was a big guy to get, but we really still needed that X receiver. And that's why Jamal Banks, I think Jamal Banks cemented Isaiah Nair as a great pickup as opposed to good, because Isaiah Nair by himself, I feel like would have had to do too much and we wouldn't have been able to use his strengths. Whereas Jamal Banks can now come in and be that big body, X receiver. He's very physical at the point of, he goes up, is aggressive at getting the ball at its high point. Maybe needs to refine some route running, but was the top receiver at Wake Forest. Wake Forest just didn't have a good offense, didn't have a good quarterback. So, it's two of those receivers that are going to come in and immediately be experienced guys that Dylan Raiola can throw the ball to. They're extremely talented guys, and they fit the under the radar type of guys that Matt Rhule likes to go off. Isaiah Nair tore his ACL, and that's why he didn't really see the field in Texas. He was supposed to come in and compete with Xavier Worthy for the wide receiver 1 spot, but in spring got tore his ACL, and after that couldn't find his way in that talented receiver room in 2023. So only a Roman reception of 14 yards, but fully a year removed from the ACL, was a clean ACL tear, no other ligaments, so he should be 100% healthy and full go. And yeah, fits exactly what Rhule's looking for. And then, Glenn Thomas, just another one of those guys that Rhule likes to bring over that has connections to Rhule. He was with him at Temple, with him at Baylor. More recently, he was with him in Pittsburgh. However, Pittsburgh, he wasn't a QB coach. Most people have, he was hired on here as a QB coach, co-OC, but he was an offensive analyst at Pittsburgh. So, and they didn't really have the talent there. So I feel like people are really knocking him based on that tenure at Pittsburgh and how that QB room played. Because a lot of people were set on Dana Holgorsen, which still might happen, but I have, mixed feelings about that. But Glenn Thomas, huge resume, worked with Matt Ryan. We'll go into a little bit of the JR style stats. Matt Ryan's highest completion percentage was when Glenn Thomas was his QB coach over there. And 2 of his 3 Pro Bowls came where Glenn Thomas was over there as his QB coach and was let go when Dan Quinn took over. And that's when Rhule brought him on. So really exciting stuff, man. He's been able to turn these offenses around. Really, it's worked a lot with Satterfield, worked a lot with Rhule, so can bring a lot of the same messaging and it's just another one of those guys that Rhule just likes to bring along with him that he trusts. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. And anybody who watched Nebraska last year saw the deficiencies of turnovers and things like that of the quarterback and, how much that stalled out the team because Nebraska had a really good defense last year. And they helped them out in a lot of ways, but it's really hard to play defense when your offense keeps giving the ball away. It wasn't just interceptions, but it was fumbles in a lot of times too, not just by the running backs, but sometimes by the quarterbacks. Harburg was, an electric runner, but just couldn't seem to hold on to the ball, throwing it or running with it.
Yeah.
And that makes a big deal. So, Jeffrey, your thoughts on Nebraska addressing the QB coach by hiring Glenn Thomas? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, overall, I would say the 2 biggest offseason developments for Nebraska, obviously Raiola coming in. I mean, that's huge. And then Tony White staying too.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like it was a gigantic scare that he was going to take off. I think they got him for another year would be my guess. But huge. I mean, the work that he did with that Nebraska defense. Don't tell me coaching doesn't matter in the college ranks because it does. Tony White is a perfect example of that. So then on the other side of the ball, you already kind of touched on it, JR, Nebraska ran the ball pretty well last year. Mm-hmm. They couldn't throw the ball. Really, but the worst part was the turnovers that JR talked about. It has to be this year. It's just that looking from the outside, every year I'm told that this is the year that the turnovers are going to get fixed. Will we finally see it this year? I'm not saying I know if it'll happen or not. I do not know. I know that has to be number one because we know that Dylan Raiola is very talented, but this entire quarterback room, as it's right now, is extremely young, or it's the guy that played last year that we don't really think is a quarterback. So you have to lean on the defense, get a little bit more from your special teams, and then just the fact that there are better players at the wide receiver position, we think, and then Dylan Raiola. But ease him into it. I don't think this is a Dylan Raiola show right from the get-go, unless he's that good. Okay, then it's step on the gas. Okay, typically speaking, even some of the best young quarterbacks need a little bit of time to acclimate to Big Ten defenses. So that's the story to me. How will that transition be? Keeping the turnovers down so that you can win games as you're learning with your quarterback. It's always interesting in the offseason for Nebraska, and coming in the season, this is no exception.
I agree. Trust me. I'm drinking the offseason Kool-Aid every single year, and every single offseason I tell myself I'm not going to do it again, and I do. So that shirt was very fitting. And to your point, Jeffrey, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, each year we think the turnovers are going to improve, and it was probably about the worst I've seen it in a long time last year. However, the only positive sign is I do think overall everything around this team that was negative has improved outside of the turnovers and the close losses. Everything that was brought over from the Scott Frost team in terms of the culture, the physicality, the way these guys play for each other, the closeness of the staff and the team. And I think, it's one of those things where turnovers are one of the things that can be, coached out of people, and our ball security can be coached to people. And I do think a lot of the turnovers this year were very mental by our quarterbacks too. I do think the quarterbacks, there was a lot of guessing going on with these quarterbacks because I think they were just real tight and tense because they knew that, their job was on the line every single game because the quarterback room in Nebraska was so, they knew that there were the problem. And I think over the course of the season, that just started to get to them. You saw Heinrich Harburg play a little bit more tense and not really go on his instincts like he did in the very beginning. And he's just not a good overall quarterback. He reminds me of a Taysom Hill type of guy. And like you said, we got Raiola on the roster, and outside of that, we got another 4-star in this class, Daniel Kalen, coming in. But that's really it. And I do think it's Raiola's job from the start. But I think the easy early schedule is really a blessing in disguise for us because I think that gives him time to get in there and really, kind of get some of these reps because the first 6 or 7 games are fairly favorable, should all be, very winnable games for Nebraska. And then the late slate gets a little bit, a lot bit more tough. So, I think the schedule might play to his benefit there, but it's one of those things where he's going to probably be the starter because there's no other really choice to get in there and win games right now. And be interesting to see for sure.
So Colorado, easy game then?
I'm going to that game. Well, we're going to blow Colorado out, man. We ain't playing altitude this time. I'm bringing my watch. I don't wear a watch, but I'm bringing one anyways.
Jim,
hey, that's right, Jim.
Awesome guy here. Glenn Thomas will bring more toughness than Bill O'Brien and doesn't have a butt chin.
That's really what I don't like him. It's the butt chin.
Yeah, what's the hate for the butt chin, guys? All right, everybody's got a chin. Some people's looks like a butt. It is what it is. Thanks for listening to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.